So here we are. Welcome to Music, Meaning and Mental Health, episode 2. Wherever you're watching this, do let us know what you think about it and let us know in the comments what you think about the subjects that have been discussed today. I'm really excited to film another episode of this series and to talk to a range of people about how music has played a role in their lives, what it's meant to them, how they feel that it's affected them, both for positive and perhaps for negative, depending on what their experiences of music have been. So I'm very, very pleased to welcome guest for episode 2, my friend, Mr. Jonny Cooper. Jonny, do you just want to give a quick introduction and explain to people what it is that you do?
Relevant to this talk, I feel like I am a musician. When, if somebody asks me what I am rather than what I do, I'm a musician at heart. I was a professional musician in my 20s, toured the world, lucky enough to got some interesting gigs, if not particularly lucrative, cruise ships and that kind of thing. Never hit the dizzying heights of recording stardom or anything like that, and kind of gave up on trying to make money out of music by the time I hit my 30s. And music became more enjoyable when I didn't have to earn a living from it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we're going to touch on that kind of idea.
Yeah.
It's a common subject that people wrestle with when they're musicians, as to
exactly.
whether to make it the hobby or the profession.
Well, I just got into marketing then. Sales first, actually. I remember a pivotal moment in my life where I saw a small ad in the London Evening Standard, classified ad, just said closers wanted, £1,000 a week, and then a phone number. I thought, what a great ad, because I wanted £1,000 a week. No idea what a closer was. So I went along and got the job and kick-started my career, and some decades later, here I am, still kicking and screaming, and playing music for fun. I have a grand piano at home in my apartment, and an electronic keyboard, and when pandemic permits, I'll probably be out locally doing some open mic gigs and stuff like that just for fun.
Great. So we've got some questions lined up for you, Jonny. I hope that you're ready to roll. So an easy one to get us started, to set the scene. Do you have, as a fan, a favourite band or artist or singer? And could you describe their music to a new fan, or perhaps someone who's never heard them, in 5 words or less?
What a challenge. Well,
Steely
Dan is the answer.
Okay.
In 5 words or less, incredible stories and vibrant music.
Love it. Well done. That's a challenging question. I make it sound like an easy one, but it's a challenge. So can you remember the first time you purchased, with your own money, a tape or a CD or a vinyl, whatever it was? What was the first album that you bought? And the second part of the question is, do you still own it?
Holy crap. I know exactly. It's Songs in the Key of Life by Stevie Wonder. Mm-hmm. An absolutely seminal album. Just
great first purchase.
Incredible. Double fold with a extra bonus EP with it as well, because he'd run out of space on the vinyl.
Yeah.
Pretty much every instrument and every track played by Stevie Wonder himself.
Yeah.
Just amazing songs, from Isn't She Lovely, I Wish, Sir Duke, that era. And worn it out, bought it then on CD, and I'm now, of course, streaming it on Spotify. I still have it, yeah. I still have the
you still have the original thing that you purchased?
Still, yeah, 1976.
Yeah. Have you bought it ever on another format? Did you ever buy a CD of it?
I bought the CD, yeah. Bought the CD. With the same artwork, but it never felt as good, I mean, if we're talking about the feeling of music, software, hardware, whatever it is, the vinyl always wins, doesn't it? It's so lovely being able to hold a disc this size instead of a horrible little bit of plastic,
Absolutely. Next question. The concept of a playlist shuffle. Love it or hate it, and why?
I've got quite a few on Spotify, and the thing with us, and I'm kind of lumping you with me on this, where we have such a wide range of musical tastes, and music is such an essential pillar of our lives. It's so hard to just build a generic playlist, because at different times you want to hear different kinds of music. You want
Absolutely.
to generate different moods and different emotions. So I'm a big one for playlists. I mean, Spotify makes this caveman simple these days. So, I have a jazz playlist, I have a more rocky playlist, I have an ambient playlist. I'm a big fan of kind of ambient house, which can just run in the background and affect your mood without you realising it. So yes,
and
is the
you're
answer.
not put off by the fact, because I know some people are very much would consider themselves album fans, and they want to hear an album start to finish, whereas some people are happy to dot about from artist to artist. You don't find it difficult to dot from artist to artist?
No, because do you know what? Most of the albums you'll listen to, you have to cherry pick. They're not great from end to end. The exception, in my opinion, in my taste, is Steely Dan. I can just put the album on and listen to it all from end to end, and you're right, it feels sacrilegious just to pick one out and then listen to something else.
When you were a child, did anyone in your family play an instrument? Was there an instrument in your household at all?
It all comes from my dear old dad, who was in the RAF in the Second World War in Bomber Command. But he had poor eyesight, so he never got called up to the front line. He was a musician, and he played the trumpet. He was known as Jeff Hot Lips Cooper. And I've got some old posters for when he used to play in the what do you call it? In the mess hall, whatever it was. Yeah, so Hot Lips Cooper. After the war, he took up saxophone, tenor, and he played right through until when I was born. And the story he tells is that my mum made him sell his sax at that point, which I think he always kind of regretted. But he owned a chain of music shops up where you are. There was one in Newcastle.
All right, yeah.
One in Huddersfield, Bradford, Leeds. Kitchens of Leeds, they're called, RS Kitchens. And they had the Hammond organ franchise for North of England. So we'd always get the hand-me-down Hammond organs that they'd taken out of a working men's club.
Great stuff.
To replace it with another one. So my abiding memory is that every one of these beautiful beasts, B3s, C3s, M100s, Hammonds, I'm a Hammond, no.
Yeah.
They always smell of cigarettes and beer. Because they'd been in a working men's club for 6 months until they got trashed and somebody spilt some beer inside or something. And they're always sticky.
Absolutely. And what's really lovely about that, you telling that story, and this is kind of one of the themes I'm touching on in these interviews, is that immediately you start telling that story, I can see that you are immediately picturing a time, or immediately, in that case, smelling something. You could almost smell it or feel.
Oh, very much so.
That those memories are still very visceral to you, and music is obviously
very
steeped
visceral.
in that.
This incredible combination, when the organ warmed up, if you'll pardon the expression, ladies and gentlemen, when you got your organ warmed up, valves, amplifiers, and that they would hum a wee bit, but they would also smell this unique electrical smell that you don't get from electronic devices these days. Yeah. The whole thing was visceral, and it made it sound, or they make their sound based on a tone wheel generator, as it's called. So there's a motor running all the time. So you get these incredible vibes and sounds, and when you play it, it's dirty and it's It's the nearest you can get to something being an analog instrument where it's still electrical. It's just incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing, but it's lovely how the music immediately sort of places you back in that memory.
Oh God, yeah.
Did you ever have any lessons on an instrument as a child?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, I had a couple of great teachers. One was one of the official Hammond organ teachers who actually worked in my dad's shop. And he would come. Derek Bellwood was his name. Strange you remember this. And then my grandma bought me a piano because she thought I should play the piano. She got my first upright. Mark, the John Brinsmead as a maker? It was a Brinsmead piano, an English upright piano. I don't think it was a particularly good one. Back in the day, it was about 200 quid, which is a lot of money for my granny. But I got lessons then from our organist and choir master at the school, because I went to a Church of England school. Didn't pick up on the religious thing, but he taught me to play the piano. This old boy.
Can you remember how?
Absolutely.
Are you able to place it back? Because one of these things that I'm interested about in these conversations, as I say, is about placing ourselves back in memories that music has a connection to.
Yeah.
Can you remember how it felt for the first time to make the music for yourself? as opposed to
Ooh.
hearing it? Can you remember any kind of like distinctive? So I sometimes refer to it as like the sort of stabilizers coming off the bike moment, or when you first move the car forward.
Are
you able to sort of think back to when you sort of first generated the sound for yourself?
I can remember very early on. I'm not sure I can remember the first one. I always tell the stories if I was 8 or 9. I think that's kind of when it was. And I remember playing. My organ teacher was very big on blues, American blues, and he would get me to go dun 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 dun, dun with my left hand, and wow wow with the right hand. I'm trying to remember what this was called. It was something a really old Delta blues type thing, you know.
Yeah.
But I remember hearing it and thinking, this feels really strange, moving 2 hands in different directions. It took a while to do that. But once you crack that, you kind of carry it with you, don't you? You get muscle memory and all the rest of it.
I remember as a child, and I've tried to describe this to many sort of piano students over the years, but I still sometimes experience this. I remember as a child trying to, if there was ever a moment where I was having difficulty to coordinate the 2 hands, like you're talking about, the independence of the 2 hands, I remember picturing in my mind, closing my eyes and trying to imagine that the right side of my brain was doing the right hand, and the left side of my brain was doing the left hand, which of course is probably scientifically nonsense. But it was like I could picture it. And if I could just focus on, well, this is what my right hand feels like doing that, and this is what my left hand feels like doing that, and I was able to sort of picture this sort of separate thought going on. But it's a weird thing, like you say, when you first do that.
No, I never thought of it like that. What occurred to me was that I couldn't do 2 things at once, and in fact, I think neurologists agree with that your brain focuses on one thing. So what you're actually doing is you're flitting between concentration on left and right.
Absolutely, yeah.
And obviously, the quicker you can do that, you know, the more granular you make it, the more effective you'll be. Just focusing a bit, and you know, muscle memory takes over. I mean, if we think of a tune like that Stevie Wonder track, "I Wish," where the bass line's going dum 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 dum. Now I can play that without thinking about it, and now I just focus on the right hand. Must be just kind of muscle memory or something.
How would you describe the role music played in your childhood when you were young? You've mentioned your dad playing, and were you part of a circle of friends where music played a role? Were you having some kind of any kind of communal experience where music was part of it?
That's a really good question, because the community, to the extent that my dad's mates thought I was amazing, because when I was 9 or 10, my dad had a music school upstairs in his music shop, which he'd run in the evening, so he'd work over. But he'd come and pick me up, and I'd go on the bus, I can't remember. But I'd end up in the window of his shop, with the shop closed, only open to the school. And I'd be playing the organ in the window. And I remember these islands going around, this roundabout thing. And there were people standing outside, you know, watching this little kid on the organ. So I remember that bit of it. But in terms of my peers, my friends, playing music marked you out as a bit effeminate, shall we say, right?
Certainly on piano.
A bit of a puff, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It wasn't a macho thing to do.
That language, that language obviously now is like totally archaic, but
and it made it even worse by the music lessons that we'd have at school, because I streamed in music up to A level. They were held at the time when the tough guys were out on the field playing rugby. So you had a choice. You could either do man's sports or you could play music.
Absolutely.
So it was almost a kind of alienation thing, being a musician, you know. And just a tiny handful of people who got it. You know, like 3 or 4 of us in the class, whereas dozens of them were out on the field doing what boys should, kind of thing. You know?
Absolutely, and even like a pecking order within the instruments.
Yeah,
so piano is not the coolest. You know, the kids
guitar was the coolest. I think.
Absolutely,
definitely, yeah. And drums too. Definitely. You know, because the drummers would strip off and wear a vest, show their arms playing the drums, you know, that kind of thing. So they were definitely cooler than the piano players.
So moving on, like as an adult, I'm interested to talk to different people about how they use music, and by that I mean to relax, to assist them when they're working, whether it's something that they have in the background or whether they actively listen to music in order to achieve something. How do you use music, and do you choose different styles of music for different situations?
Yeah, totally. I've got some really cool Bluetooth over ear earphones. That's Sony MX-1000 things, and they're just incredible. And when I go to bed, I'll put them on. They're noise cancelling as well, so you're just in your own world. And it varies, whatever I feel like listening to, I will. Often some jazz funk or jazz rock, from the 70s and 80s. When I'm in the office here working, I find just an ambient groove just helps.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when you're creating, you are in a rhythm, aren't you? You are in a groove when you're making stuff. And I just think if you can get that ambient sound to gel with that. I've tried it with different things. If it's a song that I know, I find myself listening to the words.
Yeah.
And you lose concentration then. So it's definitely just got to be sound, I think.
So you're conscious of how the music is affecting you in those ways?
Totally, yeah, totally. And if I get into a playlist, because I like the first couple, and the third one jars, I've just got to switch it off or, click to the next one. I do think I've got, because I've been doing it for so long, a kind of musical instinct, I know what I like kind of thing. But
I think that's why I'm so anti-shuffles. I can't deal with shuffle playlists at all. I've really tried.
Well, if you built the playlist...
No, I can't do it. I build playlists and I spend the first 20 or 30 seconds going, oh, what's this band again? Or what's this song again? I find it too distracting. I like to go,
annoying.
right, I want to listen
annoying.
to this band today or this album today, and then just that band's catalogue and just have them going on in a row. I like listening to bands' catalogues in order of release. I like to hear how bands develop.
Ah, okay. No, that's quite scientific, that, isn't it?
Maybe.
Bit nerdy.
Sorry.
That's okay. We got quite a few people watching this live, I don't know whether we
Great.
want to say hello to anybody. But,
well, absolutely, if anyone wants to shout. But I've got a couple more questions I'd like to throw at you if I can. So I saw, we talked about before about how music was able to transport you back to memories from your childhood, and you were able to think of smells even. I'm interested to ask people how are there any particular songs that you can, or records that you can immediately think of a particular time or a person or even a place. I'm interested in how music plays a role in our lives and perhaps can change over time. It might be a song that you remember on a particular holiday or a particular gig where you can remember that experience. Are there any particular significant songs that you think, I was there when I heard that?
Well, I've got to say yes, there are, because continually when I'm having conversations with old pals about things that happened, a piece of music will spring to mind. I don't know why I've just recalled this one, but my pal Bernie Goodfellow is a luthier, a master luthier, builds bass guitars. He was working out of a shed in Sutton in Surrey, and I was in there talking to him. And we're both big Steely Dan fans, and the Donald Fagen album, The Night Fly, had just come out. It's much like 80, 81, something like that. And I'd got the CD, and I put it into one of these CD boombox players that he had, and we were listening to it in his shed. I can remember that as if it was yesterday. He's whittling away, channeling a groove out on one of his bass guitar bodies, and we're listening to this. Yeah,
it's lovely.
So there's an example, but I'm sure there's more. If you pin me to the wall, I could probably make a list of 10 or 12 like that.
It's amazing how music can transport us to those places straight away.
Out of this world, isn't it?
I know that earlier in your career, you mentioned this earlier, music was kind of the main aspect of what you did. It played a bigger role, semi-professionally or professionally, and subsequently became more of a hobby when you decided to sort of change career paths. Whilst I obviously don't expect you to say that you regret the change, are there any aspects of where music played a more prominent part in your life that you miss? What were the things that had a positive? Can you describe how music had a positive role in your life when it was a profession as opposed to now?
Oh, okay. Well, I actually thought it was a pretty cool way to earn a living, because we'd always play, wouldn't we, just for fun, just for nothing, when we rehearse, get the guys around and set up in the lounge and all play. You don't get paid for that. You do it anyway, don't you? And it always seemed to me to be nice that people would pay us for it. But the trouble is, at the level that I was operating and getting paid for, you were almost like a sideshow, like a performing monkeys kind of thing.
Yeah.
You'd show up at a big event, and the event was the event, and we were just kind of the background.
Absolutely.
And I observed to Bernie, who we play with a lot, him on bass, me on keys. One time, let's just stop playing for a bit and see if anyone notices.
Yeah.
And it was a gala dinner. This was, I remember it in the Dorchester in London, in the Grosvenor Suite, I think it was. I don't know if you know where that is in Park Lane. Massive thing, black tie thing. So we did. We just had a longer than normal pause, and everybody had been ignoring us when we were playing. And one by one, people were just turning around, looking at the band, going, "Wasn't there some noise going on? It's just stopped," that kind of thing. So
the curse of a piano player are commonly that kind of moment. No one notices until it's not
you
there.
Stop. Yeah. So that's definitely there. I miss the camaraderie in bands. I think with us all being together. What is it? A band that plays together, lays together, or something. I don't know. But we're all pals without a doubt. And goodness me, it's a great life for a young man, isn't it? Without a doubt.
Are you conscious of how music makes you feel generally? Do you ever go through periods where you feel like I must stick some music on because I need to feel this, or I want to turn that off because it's making me feel this?
Yeah, well, I find it quite startling how most people are completely insensitive to music. I can walk into a clothes store and the music they're playing is so horrendous, and I'll say to the missus, "I can't stand this." She goes, "What? The music? Oh, I hadn't noticed it."
Absolutely.
It just gets right on my tits, and I have to go out of the shop. You imagine what it's like Christmas time. They're just everywhere. These 12 Christmas songs, on repeat.
Yeah.
I can't be in an environment where that music is just being played at me. It's probably like you with the playlist. I like to exert more control, more freedom of choice over what I listen to.
Sure.
So it definitely does affect me. Yeah, and as I say, it's startling how most people don't even notice that. They don't care.
Yeah, I can totally identify. So we've got one more question, Jonny. Thank you so much for your time speaking on these things of
My
music,
goodness, it's
meaning,
been fun.
and
Do you know what?
mental
You're good at this. You're a great interviewer. And these great
thanks very
questions.
much. Well, these are forming a series of interviews which are going to be on my YouTube channel and on my different social channels. But I'm really interested in the way that music makes us feel. So one last question. If you had to recommend one song to someone to make them feel good, to give them an uplift, to give them a boost, to send them forward with some kind of element of hope, which perhaps is something that we could do right now, what is a song that makes you feel hopeful or
Don't
positive?
make me do this. Don't make me do this.
It doesn't have to be the only one, Jonny.
I'm going to pick one song. Give me 10 minutes. I'll write a list of 10 out.
Something that puts a bit of a skip in your step. Something that makes you feel good about the world.
Well, for many reasons, this is like Desert Island Discs, isn't it? You do realise that on Desert Island Discs they give them 6 weeks to put this together, not 6 seconds. Okay, right. One thing that always cheers me up and everybody else, Sheryl Crow, All I Want to Do.
Okay.
Yeah? All I want to do is have some fun till the sun comes up on the Santa Monica Boulevard. I love that because I've spent time in LA and I have actually come out of a club on the Santa Monica Boulevard as the sun was coming up. So there's something a bit personal there.
Brilliant.
I could name another Steely Dan song or two that nobody else will have heard of. But there's a good one. Play that if you're feeling a bit down. I defy you not to smile.
That's what we want. Jonny, thank you so much for your time. It's much appreciated. And watch out for further episodes of Music, Meaning and Mental Health. I'm really interested in the role that music plays in your lives. And if either myself or Jonny can be of any help to you, then do reach out. Thank you so much, Jonny.
Fantastic. Wonderful.